Connecting, he must be there. Beginning at 132, correct?
Yes, correct.
The purpose of incarnation. God imposes incarnation as a tool to reach perfection. For some, it is a means of making amends, while for others, it is a mission. Every spirit must experience the difficulties of physical existence to reach perfection. Therein lies their atonement. Incarnation also requires a spirit to contribute to the work of creation. To fulfill this purpose, spirits assume physical bodies in harmony with the material state of each world to accomplish the missions that have been appointed to them by God. Through these missions, they contribute to the general good, while also achieving their own advancement. The action of physical beings is necessary to the operation of the universe, but God has wisely designed this action to serve as a means of climbing closer to God. Thus, through the law of providence, all things are connected, and everything in nature is united. I had but one thought as I read that first answer, and that was, spirits assume physical bodies in harmony with the material state of each world. And that caused me to reflect on mineral, vegetable, animal, human, and the evolution that literally occurs to accomplish the missions. Of course, I've never thought about the other three worlds in that sense.
Yes, and it's nice to see how the spirits answered. God imposes incarnation as a tool to reach perfection. So it's one of the tools, not the only one that we have to grow as a spirit in a moral way. And definitely being incarnated, especially here in the earth, is a quite a thing, right?
Absolutely.
And for some means, you know, we have to make amends, you have to work out things that we have done. And for others, it's already a mission, as we can mention so many people that have been here in this earth, working hard towards others, helping others. And of course, the first example is Jesus Christ, but you have so many others as well that have been here, and they still growing as a spirit, even when we think they already are like there as a spirit of light, but not. They come here as well to do a great job, to help all of us, you know. So it's this part here, the chapter 2 of the second book, when you now you're going to talk more about, you know, materialism, so incarnation. There is a this is something that we really have to understand. Of course, we already got, at least I face a question from my boyfriend, like, and why God create us simple and we have to incarnate it? Why we have to suffer? Which is a great question, actually. But we don't have all the answers. And the answer that we have is be glad and happy to have the opportunity to be here. Because according to the spirits, it's 3 times more spirits that want to have the chance to come in the earth. So if we are 7 billions, imagine it's 21 billion of spirits that are trying hard to get the chance that we have right now. And this is a great tool. Of course, it's hard, but it's a great tool.
Yes. Wow. Okay, 133. Is incarnation necessary for spirits who have followed the right path from the outset? All spirits are created simple and unaware and learn through the trials and tribulations of corporeal life. God is just. Our Creator could not create some spirits happy without their having experienced pain or without their having made an effort. In other words, without any merit. So what do spirits gain by following the right path, since they are not exempt from the suffering of corporeal life? They reach their goals more quickly. Pain and suffering in the physical life is often a consequence of the spirit's imperfection. The fewer the imperfections, the less it suffers. If a spirit is neither envious, jealous, greedy, nor ambitious, it is not forced to experience the torture that is a consequence of those flaws.
So basically what we were talking, right?
Right.
I'm sorry, my phone died, guys. I'm back.
That's fine. So you are reading 133 right now, Samantha. Of course, that we get more deep in the studies, we're going to understand more about the law because it's a law. And since it's a law, the incarnation is a law, we must follow if we like or not. For some spirits, it's a privilege to be here. For some spirits, a burden to be here. And for some spirits, they plan carefully to come back. For some spirits that have to come back right away. It's a law, but this is not a rule to be equal for everybody as spirits. And the part that I like, it's because it's a good question, actually. This is 1A. So what does two spirits bring by following the right path? It's a really good question, since they are not exempt for suffering. So what again, if I do everything right, I still have to suffer? That doesn't make sense, because to be in the earth is already suffering. And because we're going to reach our goals more quickly. Pain and suffering here, it's a consequence of our imperfections. God don't give suffering for us. God don't say like, okay, now you have to be in the earth, have to suffer. No, it's just a consequence. And that the part that we start to understand the free will. Everything that we do has a consequence. That's why it's a law.
Something else struck me as you were explaining further, and that is that for any spirit, they may have a perspective of their flaws or lack of flaws. They may have a perspective or a thought that carries them towards a position of feeling that they are progressing, et cetera, et cetera. And yet, oftentimes, their own self-assessment, my own self-assessment, is based on my thoughts, my actions, et cetera, not necessarily the impact of my thoughts and actions, especially on other humans. So while I might be thinking I'm doing all the right things, I may not be doing all the right things.
it's interesting you give this example, Mark, because so since I started participating of the mediumship session, and as the spirits come, especially on the this obsession section, when they come and they really think they're doing the right thing, and they have arguments, actually stronger arguments to explain what they're doing, or sometimes they say, that's not my fault that you guys call us, that you guys in a matter of a thought call us. And it's very interesting to see most of the time when you're doing something really wrong, we don't have the idea that we are doing this. Because if you take an example, most of the time I try to think on this example, like Hitler. On his mind, he was doing the right thing. And so many people loved him. Can you imagine the whole country liked him? If you go through the history, you're not going to see people from Germany by that time say something bad about him. I mean, most of the people, because on their minds, he was doing the right thing. And if you see like this, he's not going to see himself as a bad guy. But more that you understand and you read those books from those spirits, you're going to understand that deep inside on our mind, we know the right thing. But our pride, our selfishness, don't want to see it because we have the free will. And that's why so many people get in a fight, argument about what you're doing is wrong or right. Because if you see deep inside, we know. But it's hard to go deep inside and face the truth. That's why when those spirits come and say, I'm not doing the wrong thing, I'm not doing this or that, I have my free will, because they know at some point in their existence, they have to face reality and they have to come here. And it's hard. It's pretty hard. That's why God imposed incarnation, which is the real justice, where everybody has the same opportunity. I think this is like the beauty of everything, have the opportunity to be here.
I agree with what you said, and at the same time, let's remember that it's not an it's an impose until we reach um, a point that it's, as far as what I read, it's not an imposition anymore. It's a choice, right? So it is an opportunity for us to grow, and it's kind of an impose. Yes, it is. I don't know if the spirit also has the free will to say, I don't want to incarnate anymore, and then it's not going to have the chance to grow and to um, come back and try to do it again the right way. So I mean, I don't know if we can put as it is an impose, because the spirit probably has the free will as well, right?
It's a good question. All right. When you're thinking about impose, that's the most of the time we misunderstood, thinking like, God going to impose this to my life and I have to do it. It's a law. Incarnation is a law. Everything that is a natural law in the world, if you like or not, that's going to happen no matter what. Like the law of gravity. If you like or not, gravity exists because it's a natural law. Yet everything as it has a law is no change. What's change? It's the human laws. God laws don't change. However, as I was talking to Mark, I think your phone died. We are 7 billion the earth, but according to the spirit around the earth trying to get a chance to be here, it's 3 times more, like 21 billions around. Imagine it. It's more spirits desincarnated than incarnated, including like the good and not that good. Okay, when it says impose, because as I said, it's a law, at some point we have to face reality. So as spirits, they planning their their life here when they're gonna come back, because they already have the chance to be with other good spirits, the enlightened spirits, the mentors, to plan their incarnation. Like, Samantha, you have to go back, you're gonna have this family, this job, this, and that's, you have to face this and that, because you have to fix this and that. Some of spirits are so deep in evil that they don't have this chance. They have to incarnate it right away sometimes. The disincarnated, incarnated right away. I don't know the word in English, but I know in Portuguese, maybe it's compulsionary, something like this.
Compulsory.
Compulsory, is that? There you go. Yes, thank you, Mark. So you do right away, because that's a law. And the free will we have to understand. We have our free will. And that's another thing that very interesting, when the spirits, when they deep inside the evil and they want to do bad, they ask for that. Why you guys are taking me here to this session? I don't want to be here. What is the free will that you guys always talking about? And that is the point, that you talk to them and say, well, then I ask you, those people, those spirits, there you go there and make bad things for them. How about their free will? You interfere in their free will. So when you do bad things, we think that our free will has to be just our free will. That's just my free will. But how about other people, other spirits, incarnated or disincarnated, that you interfering? How about their free will? So when we start interfering in other people's free will, then the law kick in. And that's, it's really important to understand, because when you take free will as I can do whatever I want, yes, you can, but you have to face the consequence. And this is a law. So the impose that God says here is the law of evolve, to evolve. That is, everybody has to face at some point, in 10 years, 100, or a million. And most of the time, when your spirits get in a point that they're already good, let's say good in our eyes, they ask to come here and help us. And another thing, has classes of spirits that we have no idea, like, as we talked the last time, the Jesus, the Christ type of spirit, we have no idea what those spirits is more than perfection. I have no idea what is more than perfection. And it's hard to say what is imposed or not for them, what they decide or not to do. Basically that.
I would thank you for both for contributing deeper. I'm going to add one more element of free will, and it is the word acceptance. So there are many, many different ways to reflect on this, but here's a couple. First, a spiritist principle. Pick one. The principle of reincarnation. If our free will says, I'm going to accept this principle, then a whole number of things begin to happen. But if our free will says, no, I can't accept that principle, not only will there not be a whole series of things to happen, but a whole different track of things will happen that will eventually be wasted time. Another example, aging. The human body, animals, plants age. The earth ages, like gravity. You can try not to accept that if you choose. And again, it's a whole lot of wasted effort. But if you accept aging, there's a whole number of things that will occur to your benefit. So I think acceptance with respect to free will is interwoven into the actual decision criteria, the actual actions that are taken based on decisions and so on. And somewhere in the middle of all that or throughout it all is this word acceptance or lack of acceptance. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
So you already read 133?
Yes.
Okay, just make sure. I was like,
Yes. So
which one?
now we talk about the soul, and there's a number of questions. What is the soul? An incarnated spirit. What was the soul before being united with the body? A spirit. Are souls and spirits one and the same thing? Yes, souls are spirits. Before joining a body, the soul is one of the intelligent beings living in the invisible world. It assumes a physical body temporarily to complete its purification and enlightenment. Is a person made up of anything other than a soul and a body? The link that unites the soul and the body. What is the nature of this link? It is semi-material. It is the intermediary between the soul and the body. This is required for communication between the soul and the body. The spirit can act upon matter and vice versa through this link. Therefore, human beings are made up of three essential elements. The body, or the material being, similar to animals, and given life by the same vital principle. The soul, or incarnated spirit, which is housed in the body. The intermediary principle, or perispirit, which is a semi-material substance. It is the innermost envelope of the spirit and unites the soul with the body. This three-part nature is equivalent to that of a fruit, which includes the seed, the perisperm, and the rind or shell. I'm going to stop right there.
I don't know, you guys, but every time like I read about soul, the easiest way for me to understand what it says here, because it says the soul, it's an incarnated spirit. It's a feeling, like the soul has a feeling, and even though the spirits also have feelings, but I see this more like a human thing, like the, I don't know, warm, like a human warm soul. I think it's easier for me to identify that way.
Samantha,
It's almost like the human body gives the spirit the warmth that it needs, and then translate it into soul. That makes sense.
Samantha, I was taught in a very similar way the idea of the brain as a part of the human body can be analyzed scientifically when certain things occur. But it is not yet known if it is the brain, and I believe it is the soul, that contains many of the emotions. Fear is not unique to humans. Fear goes right down to vegetables. Fear is not something that is the same for every entity. even in humans. A knowledgeable person will have a fear, and an ignorant person may not have any fear, or vice versa. So fear is something very unique to the soul. And I believe there are emotions, love is another one, that also is unique to the soul.
This part is very interesting because this is one of the main things to understand when it comes to talk about a spirit. And furthermore, you are going to understand that for the spirits doesn't matter the word that we use,
Right.
but they trying to make simple for us. And further on, you're going to see that they tell us just um, get together and decide which word you guys going to use, because you guys don't have a a word for everything, and that makes our job hard to explain. But yes, to understand, so is when the spirit is incarnated, and before united to the body, they are spirit. That's why we said that we talk to spirit, and when we talk to each other, we talk to the soul. It's like a easy way to understand. Of course, has those meanings behind to be, you feel more close and you talk about a soul, something deep. But what Mark was mentioning, it's so interesting because deep down in science, and they already are studying this, because I was like watching couple lectures about it, which was so interesting. um, Things that they don't know where it comes from, even the brain has to come from somewhere else. And when they were talking about like Freud, okay, Sigmund Freud, and his theory, and it's when somebody as adult has a problem, you have to come back all the way back to the mom's wound. There isn't the problem happen. But if you talk to biology, they're gonna say, are you guys crazy? How a baby inside of the womb has a feeling? Because the brain is not completed, and they can prove that. They can prove that. Science proved the brain is not completed. And I believe the feeling it's close to 9 months, something like this. Or when I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure like the brain is not completed too, has this part of the brain that regarding feelings and how a baby has a feeling. And that's the part that the doctors, biology, and psychoanalysts, they are starting talking and trying to understand that. And at some point, they're going to find out that feelings come from the soul, the spirits. How's a baby or a kid of 2 years old knows how to play Frédéric Chopin? How? They don't have time to learn, and they don't have even like the brain form to that, because it's come from the spirit and comes from the soul. A body here, that's a really important part to understand. The body or a material being is just the shell, and that's it. Two, the spirit is incarnated. Feelings, memories, and everything that you can talking about comes from the spirit, that it connect to the brain and just mirror to the body, but it comes from the spirit. And if you guys starting researching about it and talking about it, I started watching lecture from scientists and doctors. They are spiritists, but I already watched so many lectures from doctors and scientists that are not spirits. And they said one of them I don't remember the name of the guy because it's so hard to say, but he's from Switzerland. And he said, yes, it has an explanation. And I am in the point to say that it's not come from the brain. That's not a material explanation. That's amazing. That's amazing. Like we normally Louise and I were just playing, you know. Oh, when they find out, I wish to say, really? Too late. We already know that. You guys are kind of like late. We already know that. Of course, has to be the scientist to say that, prove it, but it comes from the soul. So do you understand? The body is the body, material. So it's what give us the life and the sensations and the feelings and everything. And the link that we're going to talking about right now, the first period.
Interesting discussion. I could go many ways with this. Is the soul independent of the vital principle? The body is merely the envelope, as we have repeated multiple times. Can a body exist without a soul? Yes. However, when the body dies, that the soul leaves it. The union between the soul and the body is not complete before birth, but once this union is established, only physical death can break the bond uniting the body to the soul. Organic life may exist in a body without a soul, but the soul cannot live in a body deprived of organic life. What would our body be if it had no soul? A mass of flesh without intelligence, anything you would like to call it, except a human being.
The last phrase says organic. Wait. Organic life might exist in a body without a soul, but the soul cannot live in a body deprived of organic life. That's confusing.
Well, there are certain things that happen and continue to happen in the body even after death, like fingernails growing and hair growing. So that's part of that organic life that is continuing, even though the soul is gone.
Yes.
So are they talking about those bodies that are the hospital, like plugged into a machine maybe? And if they turn off the machine, the body's pretty much dead? I don't know.
No, no. What
No?
are talking about here? It's organic life. Imagine a inorganic life like plants, something like this, you know? Even we're not going to talk about, of course, the evolution of a spirit, because if we're talking about animals or plants, yeah, we have to talking about a, let's say, kind of soul, but that's more deep. But this example, as Mark was giving about the body, so organic life in general can be, I'm horrible to say this name in English as well, microbios. I'm going to say in
My,
Portuguese.
microbe,
Micro,
microbe.
Microbes.
microbes. It's horrible to say this word in English. This organic life and the decompose when the body is decomposed. Okay, there's organic life there helping the body decompose, and this organic life it's creating from the body when it starts decomposing, right? But there is no soul there anymore. But it still has a life. Why? Because organic life from this earth to decompose anything has the process, has a natural process. And it's still there. Is a type of life, organic life. However, I think they're going to explain furthermore. When the link from the spirit to the body disconnected, there is no more life. Not organic life, life. Spirit, soul, life. Here, the spirit's eternal, but the link disconnected. The machine is, it's another thing that is very complicated when you're talking about a euthanasia. That's the way to say, Mark, euthanasia, right? It's a whole different thing because it's still life in the body, and it's kind to um, disconnected in a way that is not natural, and that's a very very hard, it's a very complicated situation for the body and the spirit. But in this case, it's as Mar gave organic life as natural things that happen to the body, or any material matter things here on the earth that it don't need a soul. But in order to a body has, life needs a soul. Got it, Samantha?
See,
Okay. Can the spirit incarnate two different bodies at the same time? No. The spirit cannot be divided and cannot live in two different bodies at the same time. And the Medium Books has a chapter on this entire topic. And I did try to read this once. I decided to put it aside until I have more foundational information. What should we think about some people's opinion that the soul is the principle of material life? This is a matter of words, to which we impart very little importance. Before anything else, you should come to an agreement amongst yourselves on the terminology and the words used. Yes. Some spirits and some philosophers before them have defined the soul as an animated spark emanating from the great whole. What is the cause of this contradiction? There is no contradiction. It depends on the meaning you attribute to certain words. Why does your language not have a word for each thing?
why are you so complicated?
That was the part that I was talking about. It terminology is such a imperfection about our human beings. They don't care about terminology. You can call it whatever you want. Just, get together and decide which word to call.
Well, especially because so many languages, right? So many different translations. It's crazy. One word means one thing, and in another language, that word means so many different other things. So
It
yeah.
was also, boy, my goodness, I just remembered this was back in college when a professor, I'm sure, said to the class, you understand what a box of crayons looks like? So imagine that in certain languages, they can't describe 64 colors. They can only describe 16 or 20. And in other languages, they can describe hundreds and hundreds of colors, not just 64. Think of the rainbow, the subtle differences of the colors of the rainbow. Across the world, there are languages that can only describe the obvious, not the subtleties between the obvious. And I thought, like I said, that has stuck with me all these years, that concept. So it's very easy for me to grasp this and not take it as an insult to Americans. And before you say anything, there's plenty to insult Americans on already.
I'm married to one, Mark. In Portuguese, we have a beautiful word. It's called saudade. Saudade is the feeling of missing someone or missing something. So you say, I have saudade. Saudade is that feeling that you miss something. It's a very beautiful word, and I think there is only a few languages that have a word like this. I don't know. I was reading that at one time.
I think it's just Portuguese has
Just
saudade.
Portuguese, right? Yeah.
Nobody so as far as I know, none other language that can describe saudade. Of course, in English, you guys have missing somebody, but saudade is such a specific thing in Portuguese, right, Samantha?
Yeah,
Deep.
it is, yeah.
I accept.
And even in Spanish, because I speak Spanish too, and they don't. It's a very beautiful word. So if it would have to be translated, it wouldn't be possible. But it's not an American thing. It's a Brazilian thing.
Well, I like the word
We like
because saudade. Okay,
it's very beautiful.
it
Yeah,
is
very
very good.
beautiful.
I have one more paragraph here, I think. The word soul is often used to express very different things. Sometimes it is used to refer to the principle of life, and in this sense, it is correct to figuratively state that the soul is an animated spark emanating from the great whole. These words describe the universal source of the vital principle, of which each being absorbs a portion, and that returns to the general mass after death. This idea does not in any way exclude that of a separate moral being, independent of matter, maintaining its own individuality. This being is also called the soul, and it is in this sense that we speak of the soul as an incarnate spirit. In having different definitions for the word soul, spirits each use their own version according to their personal perspectives and the earthly ideas that they still support. This is just one example of the inadequacy of the human language, which does not have a unique word for each idea, a shortcoming that causes a vast number of misunderstandings and disputes. It is for this reason that the higher spirits tell us to first come to a mutual understanding in terms of our definitions.
There you go. This is what we're talking about.
Saudade.
Yeah, you like that, huh?
Oh, right there.
It's beautiful. I like when the spirit is like it's straight. That's Kardec's, of course, notes here, but it still come from the spirit's idea. I like when they are like, very straight and go to the point, to be simple, which make our life easier and just in studying those things. And when he says higher spirit, like come in a mutual understand, and then you can go from that. And that's remind me when you're talking about a Bible. Imagine it 2000 years ago. Words that we have right now, they have no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
And know how you can describe things that time. Like that's why Jesus, we normally we make those jokes like what a hard job Jesus had, knowing everything that we know and much more, and have to adapt such intense explanations to people that have no idea of most of the things that we know right now, and we still not knowing actually. And you have to come to a sense that to understand the words, and then they can come later on and say, oh, now that you guys have this idea, let's explain this part.
And with this comes one of my favorite phrases that I say, life is easy. We are the ones that complicate them, right? With words sometimes, because how many times you write something and then you didn't mean it that way, but that other person, um, depending the way they read it, right? Depending the meaning that they get from it. So I think that there is a point that we should all talk in thoughts, not in words anymore. I think it would be so much easier to understand each other. by the waves, not by words.
So
Because it's simple, whatever you want to tell to that person, but we seem to complicate and sometimes the words are misunderstood.
we have a few minutes. I'm going to share something that came to mind earlier tonight as we were talking. I am a lifetime musician, and I often wondered where I got the passion for music. It appeared at a young age. My parents did not push me. My parents were not musicians. My father had played in a high school band, but never since as an adult. And so I often wondered where that came from my whole life. And before Spiritism, there was something else very interesting in my life that occurred. And I got the blessing of two children, the first at the age of 45, the next one at the age of 49. I became a father.
Wow.
And I have always said that God saw the appropriateness of that to get all that single living out of my system and let me be the best father I could be, type of thing. Well, when my wife was pregnant with both my boys, from about the 5th month on, I sang to the belly every night. Now, I had been taught. Now, this is the late 90s, early 2000s, and I had been taught by science that the ears are not developed yet. They're not actually hearing until the last trimester, but they're feeling the vibrations. They, of course, feel the mother moving at all times. And the baby starts responding with kicks and so on. So here I am singing to the baby before birth. Both boys are healthy, born healthy. Both boys have a normal upbringing. And both boys found music, probably because their father was playing guitar all the time or singing. But I believe it started with the vibrations. So Samantha, when we talk about communicating without words, I'm a strong proponent
That's exactly.
of that. I already know this is true. I already know this.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
That's beautiful. Love it. Yeah, thank you for sharing. And speak without words. I think,
Well,
well, we learn from the spirits, you're going to understand they speak without words.
well, and there's much written, and I'm still finding it. There is much written. Leon Denis talks about the arts and the power of music. And there's much literature, spiritualist literature, that refers to vibrations as well. But for me, the best example of vibrations you both could talk about: your relationships with your significant other. Just think about the vibrations, how they appeared initially, how they evolved, and what they are today. You don't have to talk. You feel the vibrations. You know the vibrations.
That's so true. I never stopped and thinking about that and thought about it. That's so true. Yeah, it is so true.
And there's one more thing, and there's actually a comedian that said this: your eyes can send powerful vibrations.
Well, my kids can tell you that for sure.
Yeah, mothers know this, right?
Mothers don't even need to say a word. I just look at you and you know already.
And it's funny you said that because I was actually talking about this two times in a row, 2 different weeks with a friend that was here. And then I said, you wanna see it? And then I called my son. I said, Willie, and then I just look at him and he's like, what happened? What did I do? No, but I know what you're saying, and yeah, I think the words without words are the most beautiful way to talk to someone. And especially like when you are, within a relationship, sometimes words are not even needed, right? It is the vibration, like you said. It's
You- I'll share one more thing. If you had the blessing of a formal wedding, there are those moments during the ceremony where you look into each other's eyes and there's no words needed. You don't even know what you're saying, or the person leading the ceremony is saying. You are lost in the moment. It is the vibrations that are taking
yeah,
over, that type of thing. And I often understood that as I reflected on my wedding, but where it really became significant is when I married two friends. I got licensed for that day, and I did the ceremony. What a privilege! What an incredible privilege to be that close and feel that vibration. Pretty special. Pretty special.
that's beautiful.
That's beautiful. And then it comes back what we were talking about at the beginning. The feelings come from the soul, not from the body. We don't need the body to express. It's a tool, of course, here to express as words, as we're talking, but it's much more than that. Feelings, it's a vibration. We can feel each other without saying anything. Yeah, that's wonderful. That's things that we learn. Don't need to be spiritist to learn this, but the things that we notice along the way.
Beautiful, beautiful. Would one of you like to close the prayer tonight?
I can do.
Thank you.
I was gonna say Swellen would love to.
I knew it, Samantha. All right. So one more time, let's close our eyes and do a deep breath, feeling this moment, and be thankful for the opportunity to be here. One more Tuesday, where we have the chance to discuss such elevated words and explanations from the spirits through Kardec, and we have the chance to be here among great souls, incarnated and disincarnated, the ones that permitted this study, the ones that support us along the journey. Let's be thankful and say thank you for God in the first place, the one that created everything, and Jesus Christ, our big brother, that sent all those enlightened spirits to help us to understand and put in practice everything that we study. But also let's remember the ones that still emerge in a such dark mind, feeling, place, suffering at somehow. The ones here incarnated that are still suffering because they're hungry, they're feeling alone, sad. The ones that lost a beloved, a friend, family, somebody close to this pandemic. The ones that still not accept their conditions in order to grow. Let's always put our minds on those souls that needs light, love. And let's be grateful one more time to be here in such a great condition. And I ask the permission to finish the study of this Tuesday. And so be it. All right, my friends. See you next Tuesday.
Let's see, I have to
Mark.
stop the recording.
Yeah, you just go there and record and stop.
I got it.
Mark.